and this next guy is a special talent. He works at a club called the Comedy Act Theater, and hecklers do not mess with him.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. They're the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful October the 29th, 2020. Ronald Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, just another beautiful wet day down here in the South. You know, we had your president full of pump fake on his fans today down in Florida saying,
Yes.
hey, if you can't social distance, wear a mask.
Yeah.
So 3 people had a mask on at his rally today. And I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders.
Yeah.
They're always wearing a mask and protecting America.
Yeah, they're doing the right thing, Big C, and you can too. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. And all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, Big C. It's really good to pause, but it's never good to pause on the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, during all this presidential stumping, I hear no one talking about what they're going to do for our great veterans of this country. None of these candidates are addressing the 24 veterans that we lose every day to suicide in this country. I know that Joe Biden's aware of it because he lost his son who served in the military. But as we look at this president talking about the pandemic is over and everything is great, as more and more Americans are suffering every day and falling into poverty, we have veterans that are doing the same thing, Charlton, and unfortunately many of them have turned to suicide.
Yeah.
We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, but we need it to be more of a concerted American issue. It needs to be part of the presidential campaign also, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because everyday citizens also commit suicide in horrific numbers in this country. Our veterans gave their all for this country to be what it is today, Charlton, and for people to have the opportunities that they have. Let's not forget about them. Everybody give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number.
I love giving it out. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, just go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can definitely get some help. Big C, I was looking up that Joe Biden has had a son that served in the military. And just to be equal time, I looked up Donald Trump's family. You know, none of his kids have served for this country, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, none of his family ever has served for this country, Charlton. They've taken everything from this country that they can by hook or crook, but they will not serve with dignity in the military.
Isn't that amazing? No wonder he says that he hates losers that serve in the military. It's all fair and love and war. We appreciate our veterans. I'm also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV, On Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid, as well as a home run leader, Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, just tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple. We want to recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it, Carly dealerships do it, and sports teams are doing it too, Big C. Let TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, just go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com. BigC.com, and you can get some help. I also want to make sure that people all over the world just pick up your phone and hit on the app and just Google Big C Sports Podcast. The app will pop up. It's on Spotify, it's on Spreaker, it's on iHeartRadio Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. There's a lot of podcasts that we're on, and it's all over the world. It is powered by T-Mobile, and I really appreciate that. So just download the app, and you can follow Big C Sports and Big C's thoughts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Finally, I want to say, Big C, I know that Donald Trump's family has never served the military. I know his father was arrested at a Ku Klux Klan rally in 1927 in New York City. I know that none of his kids have lifted one finger to serve this great country. And Joe Biden's has, and that's up to everybody to decide what they want to do with that. But you got to get registered to vote. We are 6 days away, Big C. 6 days. But you got to get registered. Text the word VOTE to 26797. That's VOTE to 26797. Tell all your friends that Big C and the NFL said vote. Everybody's saying vote. Big C, 6 days left. Is there anybody who hasn't registered, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, there's too many people that have not registered, and I can never understand the delay that people take and wait up to the last minute when you have an opportunity to early vote.
Yeah, you got to go out and do it. And for all you sports fans, we're going to cover some sports today. But before I do that, I just want to make sure when you're watching sports, and even if you're standing in line, you got to make sure you take some food, some water, because sometimes lines are lasting several hours. You can also watch them go out and vote with a Big C burger. It really is a tasty burger. It comes with exotic meats, and you can get it at participating restaurants. You can also enjoy a libation with the Budweiser Zero. It's zero alcohol, and it is a great taste, and it's great with the Big C burger. Big C, I was telling some people about sports and politics, and we're all into it, and some people take for granted that they'll always have a right to vote. Oh, I'll just get around to it next time. But that's not the case. I just want to bring this up. The Supreme Court will not immediately consider whether Pennsylvania can count ballots that arrive after Election Day. And they won't block mail ballots in North Carolina arriving up to 6 days after Election Day. It's so important. People got to know this. I know you want to know who won the game, but it's called the Purcell Doctrine. It's an election law. It allows individual states, Big C, to count your vote. Would you believe the Trump administration is trying to get Justice Amy Coney Barrett to help decide who wins the election? That's why it's so important that you got to vote, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if he's behind on election night, he's going to want all those votes to be counted.
Yeah, he's going to want that, Big C. But at the same time, if you control which ones you count, the hanging chads, then it's people got to get out and vote. No matter if you believe in the system or if you don't get back into saying I'm going to be apathy and I don't really care because they don't really care about my interest. I hear too many people telling me that. So make sure you get out and vote. Melania Trump was out. He picked her up this time. I guess he left her in Pennsylvania, Big C, and he heard some people criticizing. He actually had her standing next to her, and I think she was in a leopard outfit, Big C. Does that make sense to you? Your thoughts?
Well, it was almost an embarrassing being an American, Charlton, to have a foreigner standing up on stage that you needed a translator to listen to.
Yeah.
And he talks about the people who come into this country and take the positions of Americans. I think that's what she's done, and he's advocating and stumping for it.
He's advocating and stumping for it. And I really want to say this because this is the same man that called an African-American woman, a black woman, and he called her Kamala Harris, said she was nasty, that she's a monster, and that she's mean. He never talks that way about his wife who can't even speak. And I really want to say this because Michelle Obama is a lawyer, went to law school, raised a wonderful family, former First Lady with President Barack Obama. And she was never an embarrassment to this country. But there were so many people that were cruel to this black woman. That's an excellent example of a woman, in my opinion. A lawyer, raised great children, and never belittled other people. But I'm going to stand up for her. Because Melania Trump never stood up to her husband and said, wait a minute, that's not respectable. And I hate the fact that they took the high road, but I know they had to, Big C. To me, for black women, when everybody wants to say if you're strong, that you're mean and nasty, if you stand up for yourself, that you have an attitude, that's not true at all. I think so many black women have gone through a lot of garbage just to stand in the line of equality. And to me, when I see Melania Trump, who is a foreigner, and standing on America's White House as the First Lady. To me, it's an embarrassment that people voted for that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Donald Trump has always had somebody dumb and weak standing next to him, Charlton, who will kowtow to whatever he says that is riding on the coattails of his popularity.
Yeah.
And that's what he has right now.
Yeah.
Not somebody who can stand their own, not someone who's intelligent.
Yeah.
Who's about to be deported out of the United States, so she married him.
Yep. That's all fair in love and war. Always find the time for the things that make you happy, that make you feel happy, and happy to be alive. It's always important, and I really appreciate that. Always bet on yourself in life. You can pause, you can think, you can love more, you can cry more, you can laugh more, but be happy. Tell someone you love them every day. It might be the only person that tells them. Everything you want in your life is yours. Just got to make sure you and go out and get it. Big C, I want to touch on some things in the world of NFL. The NFL is moving forward with plans for reduced capacity Super Bowl 55 to be played February 7th, even if the league ultimately adds an 18th week to its regular season. At this point, the NFL is planning to hold capacity of 20% at Tampa Bay's Raymond James Stadium, which normally holds about 65,000 fans. With temporary seating, its capacity could have been enlarged to about 75,000, and the fans will be in pods about 6 feet apart, and masks will be required, so it's nothing like the POTUS rallies. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the NFL is trying all it can to follow safety protocols that it has set up. We'll have to see what happens come February, Charlton. Will there be any halting in the NFL season? Will there be any more games delayed or canceled?
Yeah, I know they're going to play, and I know there are a lot of times when I see basketball broadcasters in the same booth. They have the partition. And we had President Trump and Vice President Joe Biden. When they were stomping, at one time they had a partition between them. The second time they didn't. But make sure you guys, whatever you got to do, just take care of your health. It's so important whether you go to a game or not. The San Francisco 49ers, speaking of keeping distance, Big C, the 49ers would like you to meet the Yak brothers. They're a group of young, skilled players making their mark, running past, around, and almost every important opportunity over any defender standing in the way. The 49ers, they rank in each category across the NFL. Think about this. In RK, yards after catch, in the Yak, Big C, 682. Number 1 in rushing yards after contact, 368. Number 2 in rushing yards after contact for rush, 1.82 yards. Number 4 receiving yards after contact, and 314. Number 2 in receiving yards after catch, 1,086. Number 1 in yards after catch per reception, 6.92 yards, Big C. And number 1 in yards after contact per reception at 2. I think that's a great team. It's amazing that the record is what it is, but they're also a scary out, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a team that had some hiccups at the early part of the season, Charlton, and lost 2 unfortunate games. But now that they've gotten healthy, they got Jimmy Garoppolo back under center. This Mike Shanahan offense, Kyle Shanahan offense, Charlton, is clicking now on all cylinders. I mean, the 49ers are almost like a plug-and-play offense. When everybody is healthy, they're one of the dominant teams in the NFL. And you look at where they are in their division.
Yeah.
This division in the NFC West is going to be tight. It's led by Seattle. But, you know, there's only a 2-game difference between first and last place in that division.
Yeah, not even any of the teams in the NFC East could compete in the NFC West. Just like college football, that's why they work so hard to keep the Pac-12 out of the national championship picture. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, if the Pac-12 could win some games, Charlton, they might get an opportunity to get in.
Yeah,
but everybody has a weak little brother, and that's called the Pac-12.
It's all fair in love and war. That's a low blow, Big C. It's all fair in love and war. The NFC South rivals, they will meet tonight, Big C, the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to meet up in Carolina, and the teams that seem to be heading in opposite directions. The Falcons, it's hard to believe. They say money can't buy you love. We know that it does. And they say it can't buy you happiness. We know that it does. But ultimately, it cannot buy you a win. Atlanta's only 1-6. They have one of the most beautiful stadiums, pretty much still brand new down there, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And then the Panthers are 3-4. Matt Ryan is one of the best passers in the game, and he posted 338 passing yards in Sunday's loss to Detroit, Big C. Big Teddy Bridgewater and the Panthers offense, they can be very, very good at times. They're a little more balanced. He threw for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns on Sunday, and they also lost 27-24 to New Orleans, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, these are teams as division foes, Charlton. This is a desperate need for a win tonight. When you think about Atlanta, they have found every way to lose this season that you can. I mean, when you talk about snake bit, I think they got two of them sitting in the locker room.
Yeah.
But, here's the Carolina Panthers under Matt Rule, first-year head coach.
Yeah.
To be a 500 team at this point of the season, that would be, very impressive for him coming from the college ranks.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater, a first-year quarterback. The defense has struggled in Carolina, and they need to come up with some big plays.
Yeah. Speaking of snake bitten, I heard some fraternities when they pledge, they make people get bitten by snakes. That's a dumb way to get indoctrinated into some fraternity. You guys be careful out there trying to get into some frat. Big C, the Falcons defense is allowing 8.7 yards per pass attempt, and the Panthers allow 6.3 yards per pass attempt. That's the league's best. Bridgewater has been sacked 13 times. And Matt Ryan's been sacked 15 times, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, but when you look at that receiving core with the Falcons, with Ridley and Julio Jones,
yeah,
I mean, they're a dynamic duel out there, and they have some guys that come in backup roles, Charleston, that are exciting also. And you think about Matt Ryan with those touchdowns, he's only thrown 3 interceptions this year.
Yeah.
And Todd Gurley has been churning out the yards. He's been much better than expected in Atlanta this year. He really needs to have a big game tonight. And the Falcons have a potent offense. If Gurley has a big game, they can knock off the Panthers.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting in seeing this game. And McCaffrey's not playing, from what I understand, Christian McCaffrey, so it's going to be a lot on the shoulder and the arm of Teddy Bridgewater. I want to take a time to go into Big C's, the new MVP watch, and it can change depending on how well people play from week to week, Big C. I'm going to just go with 7 players right now because that's what you get when you get a touchdown and the extra point, 7 points. Number 7, I'm going to bring up the names. You don't have to agree, but just give me your thoughts. Number 7 for the MVP watch, Big C, I would say Kyler Murray for the Arizona Cardinals. Your thoughts?
I mean, he's been dynamic, and we saw what he did the other night against Russell Wilson, Charlton. This young man is unflappable. But even more so, the Seattle defense did not touch him all night long in the backfield. The only time the Seattle defense touched Kyler Murray was when he was running the ball down the field.
Yeah.
So when you think where he's lifted the Cardinals up to 4-2, and just 2 years ago, they were the number 1 pick overall with just 1 win. This guy needs to be in the race.
Yeah, he's definitely solid. He's gonna get better, Big C. Number 6, I'm gonna bring in Big Ben Roethlisberger for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He also likes the Big C burger, but give me your thoughts on Big Ben being up there for the MVP watch. Your thoughts?
If nothing else, Ben Roethlisberger is the comeback player of the year in the NFL.
Yeah.
But he's also the only quarterback who has his team undefeated at this juncture of the season. And you think about how explosive this Steelers offense has been with the return of Ben Roethlisberger. You have to give him a lot of consideration for being in an MVP race.
Yeah, anytime you got Big Ben at the helm of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they always have a better chance to get things done. So I really appreciate the way he's played football, especially coming back from his surgery, Big C. I'm going to bring in number 5. It might feel a little bit low in some people's opinion. Last year's MVP, Lamar Jackson, and that good old boy has been doing his thing for the Baltimore Ravens, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I think Lamar Jackson maxed himself out last year, Charlton, as far as his ability in the NFL. I don't know if he can get any better than what he did last year, and this year he's sort of taken a step back.
Yeah.
But you have to keep him in consideration. His team is in second place in their division with only 1 loss, plus he's the reigning MVP.
He really is, Big C. Plus, with a last name like Raven, he might be due for the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it does come with exotic meats. But I think a Raven's on the endangered species list. It's all fair in love and war. I want to go to number 4 on the list, a guy that I said was washed up. So don't listen to what I say about guys that have whatever they're putting in their system. I'm really proud of a man that's 43 years old, or is he 93? I guess 43 is the new 93. Big C, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you know all of those Pirates would love the Big C burger. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the way that Tom Brady is performing, I mean, it's almost like rolling back the clock a decade.
Yeah.
He's going out throwing 3-4 touchdowns every game, Charlton. He's gotten his team off to a great start. We talked about the talent that Tampa Bay had, but he seems to have brought that talent together and made it much better. And Tampa Bay right now is gliding in their division. Tom Brady is the main cause of that.
Ironically, when he was at Sarah High School in San Mateo, he went to the second Cal High sports camp over at St. Mary's College, and Mark Tennis, who runs all the California Cal High Sports Camp says that Tom Brady's sister was actually a better athlete, but he has more trophies, if that makes sense to the Brady family from San Mateo. Number 3 on the list of the new MVP watch, Northern California's finest out of Pleasant Valley High School in Chico, California, is Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers. Big C, your thoughts?
As they call him, Aaron, Charlton. I mean, Aaron has been spectacular this year. He's had the one hiccup where he threw the 2 picks down in Tampa, but he's been unflappable. And, here's a guy with a minimum receiving core in the NFL, but he has the Packers at the top of their division, and there doesn't seem anything to slow him down the rest of the year.
Yeah, and he comes to Green Bay, so he eats the Big C burger. He puts cheese on his Big C burger, but it already comes with it. You think he still has a chip on his shoulder? They brought love into town. When he played at Cal Berkeley, Big C, he sat there and watched while everybody passed him up, but he's still playing, and some of the guys that got drafted before him, they're not playing anymore, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Aaron Rodgers, when he has not been injured, Charlton, he's always been a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Those are the only things that have ever slowed him down throughout his career. Yeah,
I mean, he's always been good, especially still has that chip on his shoulder. It's all fair in love and war. Number 2, last year's defending Super Bowl MVP champion Patrick Mahomes for the Kansas City Chiefs. He likes ketchup on his Big C burger. Big C, number 2, your thoughts?
And this is a guy who really hasn't even got started yet this season, Charlton. When you look how well that offense is played in Kansas City, that he's not always called upon to throw the ball 45 times a game, that they have a solid running game. Patrick Mahomes, though, when he say start up the engine, he can drive that car down the track. Yeah, he can drive that car down the track, but he has so much money, he probably has a chauffeur, if that makes sense. It's always fun. But I'm sure with his kind of money, he wants to drive his own car. You don't want someone driving the Bentley, Big C. You don't need a chauffeur for that. But speaking of the guy who probably has a chauffeur and a private jet, from what I understand, Russell Houdini Wilson, the Seattle Seahawks, I still bring him as the MVP watch. Doesn't mean he's number 1, but for a guy that can play the way he does, and he has a wife who's a very good musician too, Big C, I'm going to give it to Russell Houdini Wilson. Big C, your thoughts? Well, he's leading the league in touchdown passes with 22. He had the hiccup down in the desert the other night, Charlton, but right now Russell Wilson has done all that he can to carry this Seattle Seahawks team. They need some help on defense. They've been kind of beat up, but, hands down, thus far, he's been the most valuable player in the NFL. Yeah, so
that's the thought on the MVP watch. It may change depending on how players perform, and that's the great thing about what we like to do. It's week by week. We don't stick to it like it's stuck in stone. It's based on performance, and that's how things should be. And that's my story, and that's what I'm sticking to. It's all fair and love and war. Big C, you ever have a help wanted sign on a multi-billion-dollar stadium? If you ever flying over Dallas in Arlington, Texas, you'll see a sign on top of the AT&T Stadium. It says, "Help wanted, Dallas Cowboys." Big C. Statistically, the 2020 version of the Cowboys, it might not be the worst in team franchise history. If you think back to the first year's owner, Jerry Jones, when they stole the team, he was drunk on a yacht when they bought the Cowboys. That's how white guys get down. He was drunk, and he didn't have to go through some type of Rooney Rule or give me opportunity. He was drunk when he bought the Cowboys. His own words, Big C. But they went 1-5, and then Jimmy Johnson was his inaugural campaign as head coach. 3 short years later, just 3, Dallas embarked on one of the best, I would think, one of the best championship runs in league history. Sitting at 2-5, it's unlikely such a run is in the cards for the Cowboys this season, and possibly over the next several seasons. Jerry's not getting any younger last I checked. Dallas trailed by at least 14 points, Big C, in the first half for 6 consecutive weeks. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, this is a potent offense that they have, Dolphin, and their defense couldn't beat a Pop Warner team right now. The Dallas Cowboys, there's no end in sight for the end of the season for them. It can't come too soon. They're looking at the Jets and say, how do you get out of this? We're glad that we have 2 wins because we may not win again. This is a once proud franchise, as many people say. But right now, Charlton, is only proud in name and recognition only. The Dallas Cowboys are not a good organization. The Jones family has ran this team into the ground. I mean, they're worse than a used car on a parking lot with dents in it because you can't identify anybody. And for all of those people during the offseason talking about Dak wasn't that good, he should give the Dallas Cowboys a hometown discount. Well, he did give them a hometown discount, Charlton. He got hurt. And so that discounted their season to nothing.
Yeah.
Because without Dak Prescott, it shows the ineptitude of this team, and Jerry Jones can't get the season over quick enough.
You know, I heard, I think it was Terrell Owens that said, you know, sometimes you just talk to certain people and you can't take their word for it. There were several other athletes that indicated it also, that Jerry Jones has expressed some confidence in his head coach, Mike McCarthy. But then after he does that, the next day he might give you your walking papers. But he's saying that Mike's his guy. But I want to ask your opinion. Some of what happened in the World Series was they didn't use their gut, the Tampa Bay Rays, the manager. He didn't use his gut. And when his pitcher was pitching strikeout, shutout baseball, he went with analytics as opposed to his gut. I think for anyone that can become as successful as Jerry Jones, he has to use his gut in a lot of that, Big C. Do you think he's given that up to be nice to people, Big C, if that makes sense to you? Your thoughts?
Well, I don't think that Jerry's using his gut. Jerry's been using his ego ever since he's been with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
He had an ego because Jimmy Johnson was getting responsibility for winning the Super Bowls, and he was saying, I should be getting all the accolades. I'm the owner and the general manager.
Yeah.
Jimmy moved on. He brought in Barry Switzer. He won again with Jimmy's players. But after that, it's been a downhill slide ever since then, Charlton, because Jimmy Johnson wasn't sitting there buying the groceries, picking the talent, putting it together on the field. And he's gone through several head coaches since Jimmy Johnson, and none of those coaches have succeeded. He's done a half dozen head coaches since Jimmy Johnson has left the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And none of those coaches have succeeded. They've won one playoff game during that time, Charlton. So him thinking that he's the guy that bought the Dallas Cowboys, no, he's not. He's gotten old and had a facelift. That's about it.
That's about it.
But the players are not marching back through that locker room tunnel that Jimmy Johnson drafted.
Yeah. Danny White played for the Arizona State Sun Devils, also played for the Dallas Cowboys back in the day before Troy Aikman showed up on the scene. And I don't know what he's doing in life, but maybe if you had someone that's had some success back there, maybe that would help. But I also think, and people might laugh, Herm Edwards can only play so long down in Arizona, at Arizona State, the Sun Devils. He took a freshman quarterback and had them knock off Oregon and knock him out of the bowl championship game. I would love to see Herm Edwards talk to Jerry Jones. Do you think he has the right skin color to even get consideration to talk about coaching the Cowboys? Your thoughts?
He's not going to hire, Herm Edwards. He wants the yes man to come in. He doesn't want anybody with any spine. Mike McCarthy didn't have any spine. He had been fired. He was unemployed. And so he was going to take the first opportunity that came along. Whatever Jerry Jones offered, he was taking, and that's what happened. You think about it, they only interviewed two coaches when he hired McCarthy.
Yeah.
Marvin Lewis and McCarthy. That was it.
Yeah.
They didn't go through 4 or 5, different sets of options, Charlton, to hear different outlooks and analytics from different coaches, what they may look at and the type of players that they would need to change the direction of that franchise. He was stuck on what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So he brought in Mike McCarthy, even though he hadn't won a Super Bowl in over a decade.
Yeah. Would you believe, before the Big C pause, I believe that Dallas used to be up in Missouri, I believe, before they moved down to Texas. Eric Bieniemy's been doing his thing up in Kansas City. If Dak Prescott's healthy next year, Dak Prescott and then Mahomes, they're similar athletes, Big C. I would love to see, if they would be fair about it, at least give Eric Bieniemy a phone call, fly him down to Texas with a healthy Dak Prescott. You already have some of the best receivers, I think, in the NFC East. That's my opinion. With a quarterback coach guru like Eric Bieniemy, that would make no sense at all not to at least give him a call and fly him on your private jet, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, if Eric Bieniemy goes to Texas, it will be Houston. He's not going to Dallas. Jerry Jones is not going to hire a black head coach, Charlton. He's from Arkansas.
Yeah, it's all fair and level more. But that would make a lot of sense. So maybe it won't happen because it make a lot of sense. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. And when we come back, I'm going to talk more about some quarterbacks that would also love the Big C burger. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. All you got to do is open your phone, and say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast, and it will pop up on your application, and I really appreciate that. Big C, Tua Tagovailoa came out of St. Louis High School, Honolulu, Hawaii. I don't know how he got to Alabama. There's a lot of schools on the West Coast, but I guess the paper bags were not big enough, if that makes sense to you. When they say you want paper bags or plastic with your groceries, he took the paper bags from Alabama, and he knows what I'm talking about. But now he doesn't need a paper bag to put his money in the bank. He became the 22nd different starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins since the great Dan Marino retired following the 1999 season. Dan Marino's in the Hall of Fame, by the way. And then Marino retired March of 2000 after 17 seasons as the Miami Dolphins quarterback. At the time, Big C, of his retirement, Marino was the NFL's all-time leading passer in yardage and touchdowns. The Dolphins have struggled to find a franchise quarterback ever since, but I'm telling you, Big C, they've reached the playoffs just 4 times since Marino retired. But Tua has something special if they can keep him healthy, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, I'm not so sold on that with Tua, Charlton. Tua is a diminutive quarterback, and a diminutive quarterback without great athletic skill. When you look at Herbert and you look at Burrow, you're looking at 2 large individuals, one standing 6'3", one standing 6'5". When you look at Tua, he's about 6 feet tall, Charlton. And when you look at the diminutive quarterbacks in NFL, you look at a Russell Wilson, you look at a Kyler Murray. What do both of those have? Escapability and the ability to run downfield. That's the biggest question mark for Tua. We've seen his rocket-fast release in college, but you're not going to be throwing over 6'5" defensive linemen in the NFL like that on a consistent basis, just standing in the pocket.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be able to move. And I'm not so sure that the Miami Dolphins can protect him. If you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick, he had rushed for like 250 yards on the season, Charlton, as a quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. He's displayed a lot more mobility than what I think that Tua has.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's going to hinder him, Charlton, because he's going to be a stationary target in the pocket, and I don't know how well he's going to hold up to massive hits in the NFL after having that hip repaired.
Yeah. You don't think he matches at all what the great Drew Brees has been able to do? The same size and one. I think their arm strength is about the same. Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, but Drew Brees is an anomaly. Drew Brees is like saying Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah. Fran
Tarkenton was the original little quarterback running around at 5'10" in the NFL when he played for the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Drew Brees came along, Charlton, with the San Diego Chargers prior to getting injured and moving on to the New Orleans Saints. But that's a rarity. Look how long Drew Brees has been around and how many diminutive quarterbacks have come along in the NFL that could be successful. There haven't been, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you worry about with Tua. Drew Brees understands the game. He's matured for many years understanding the NFL.
Yeah.
You look at Tua, he's tossed into a fire pit.
Yeah. I think that's one opportunity. He's been told that his whole life at St. Louis and Honolulu, Hawaii, and also coming over to the University of Alabama. And they flew him in on a paper bag, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, but you look at him at Alabama.
Yeah.
He got hurt because he couldn't avoid the college rush, Charlton. Yeah. It wasn't that he was a dominant player. And he was hurt every year at Alabama.
Yeah.
He had the ankle surgery at Alabama when Hurst had to come in and save him in the SEC championship game, Charlton.
Yeah.
And then he had the hip hurt the following year. So he's injury-prone in those lower extremities because he cannot outrun those athletic defensive linemen and linebackers.
Yeah, I do wish him very well. In fact, when you think about being hurt, you have New England Patriots wide receiver Julian Edelman. He has a knee procedure that's going to keep him out of the game against Buffalo. We'll cover that game in Big C's NFL picks tomorrow. But give me your thoughts on New England trying to get back on track, and they don't have their best receiver, Big C. Your thoughts?
I don't know if New England can get back on track, Charlton. If they lose to Buffalo this weekend, you can cancel Christmas with them. Julian Edelman was their leading receiver. Cam Newton has been throwing an interception about every 5 passes that he throws.
Yeah.
If Cam can't get his head out of his butt and put some expediency in his offense, the season's over with.
Yeah. I do want to just say, I was listening to some doctors talk about people that have had COVID-19 and some issues show up down the road that they don't see right away. And they were talking about some things with athletes too. And maybe I'm not trying to say anything good or bad about Cam. That's his own choice. But sometimes you got to make sure people are 100% healthy before you put them out there.
Yeah, but Cam's only had one good game this year, and that game was at Seattle.
Yeah.
That's the only game Cam had a decent passing game. the first game of the season against Miami. He
Yeah.
wasn't that great throwing the ball.
Yeah.
On that Sunday night game against Seattle was his best game of the season.
Yep.
Every game after that, he's gone downhill and got worse and worse.
Yeah, I still think he has a lot in the tank, but I don't know. It's up to him and Bill Belichick. I'd love to see a former NFL MVP get his stride back, Big C. Jacksonville Jaguars, Gardner Minshew, the second, Big C. He has multiple fractures in his throwing hand. A lot of guys been hurt this year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that doesn't sound good for a quarterback, Charlton. Even though Jacksonville has a bye week this week, they'll see how strong that grip is in another 10 days.
Yeah, they'll see. And I mean, Drew Brees had that similar thing, and when I think it was last year, he had his when he was playing the L.A. Rams, and he was out for a while, and that's when they brought in Teddy Bridgewater. He ended up going undefeated. So, I mean, it's just going to matter of time. Doctors have excellent skills now that can help things heal faster. New York Giants lineman Mr. Hernandez tests positive for COVID-19, and that might be a benefit for him because he doesn't have to suffer through the season like the rest of the players. Make your thoughts.
That might be the best block he throws all year long, Charlton, trying to block out COVID-19.
Yeah.
It's not going to help the Giants in any kind of way. I mean, they have a very pathetic offensive line.
Yeah, it's amazing. Guys can make tens of millions of dollars, and they can't win more than 2 games. It's all fair and love and war. Also, the Los Angeles Chargers, they have a guard by the name of Ryan Roy. He tests positive for COVID-19. I think the Chargers are the best team that has more losses than wins in the NFL, all because they can't kick field goals. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is going to be what the NFL is. They got 8 players that have tested positive this week for COVID-19. The NFL is trying to avoid shutting down another team like they had to do the Titans.
Yeah, they're not going to shut down anything, Big C. They would go down to college and grab all the college players out of the Big Ten because most of them are on pause, and they would have them fill up the NFL rosters because the TV money is very, very good. I want to touch on a little bit of what's going on in the world of baseball. Now, I like to exercise, Big C. I like to eat right for the most time. Maybe I eat too many collard greens, but that's something that I love, and I'll deal with it. And I maybe eat too many Big C burgers, but it comes with exotic meat, and it's a really tasty burger. I'm going to offer the Big C burger to baseball's finest, a young Tony La Russa. Big C, he's 76 years old, and the Chicago White Sox just brought him back in to manage. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's had success everywhere he's gone, and now he's back in the saddle for the Chicago White Sox. So I guess 76 is the new 26, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's going back to where he started. He didn't have success originally with the Chicago White Sox, and Reinsdorf fired him, and he ended up going to the A's and winning a World Series there, Charlton, and then went on to the St. Louis Cardinals, winning a World Series there. So Reinsdorf is hoping that he can come back to Chicago and hopefully rekindle some of that. But, when you think about baseball, when he hasn't managed since 2011, 9 years, the game has progressed a lot since then. I know he's been in the front office with the Angels, but being on the field and dealing with the rotation of players and a pitching rotation is a lot different than sitting up in the managerial suite, Charlton, at the stadium.
Yeah, it's also a lot different, Big C. The number of zeros on your check, would that bring you back, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if money is the reason why he came back. Everybody who deals in sports always has an itch and wish that they could be involved in the game.
Yeah.
There's not many players who retire that don't want to keep playing, Charlton, but time and the business moves beyond them, as well as a lot of managers. You don't normally see them retired. They're getting fired. But I don't think it's the zeros. I don't think that he'll be destitute even if he did not manage. He had a great managerial position with the Angels organization.
Yeah, I wish him well. And for guys that think, I just turned, whatever age, and they think they're over the hill, I really appreciate a man being 76 years old and getting out there around some 20-year-old young men and teaching them what he's learned over the years. And I'm sure it's just going to help the White Sox, which will always be Chicago's second favorite team behind the Cubs, no matter what they do, Big C. But I wish the great Tony La Russa lots of luck. I want to also bring in to some things that, in my opinion, I think a lot of people are being very hard on the 2020 World Series participant. Major League Baseball says Justin Turner emphatically refused to comply and stay in isolation after his COVID-19, positive test. That he didn't find out until the 8th inning, Big C. If you believe that, he didn't find out until the 8th inning. And if he were to be tested positive, he couldn't play in Game 7 I mean, sometimes you read between the lines. It's all fair and love and war. But give me your thoughts. If he got positive before the game, he would have missed that game and possible game 7. And by the time he tests positive, they were in the 8th inning, and they had their closer doing his thing. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, ironically, they found out in the 2nd inning that he had tested positive.
Yep.
Commissioner Manson called the owners of the Dodgers,
Yeah.
indicating that he needed to be removed from the game.
Yeah.
They waited all the way to the 8th inning, Charlton, until the Dodgers secured the lead. When they were trailing, they
Yeah,
didn't take him out of the
exactly.
game. But they knew when the Rays were up 1-0 that Turner had tested positive for COVID-19.
Yeah.
And when they did remove him from the game, Charlton, he was unwilling to follow baseball protocol.
Yeah.
Is that he needed to go and isolate away from the rest of the team, which he refused to do.
Yeah.
And baseball personnel informed him of that,
Yeah.
as well as baseball security. And he chose not to do that, Charlton, in a very selfish manner. I understand you may not always get back to that championship scenario, Charlton.
Yeah.
But as we've seen COVID-19, especially with the NBA, where one positive test, Rudy Gobert, they shut down the league, Charlton.
Yeah.
Shut down the entire league. And we saw when baseball put 22 games on pause during the regular season because of positive tests.
Yeah.
And then when you think about the selfishness of Justin Turner to come back out on the field and celebrate with his teammates after the World Series was won, not only that, Charlton, he sit next to Dave Roberts, a
Yeah.
cancer survivor,
Yeah.
without a mask, sitting next to this man who was a high-risk individual.
Well, okay, let me ask you. I'm going to take up on Turner's side. Maybe I'm wrong, but you think the manager, Roberts, knew that they let them know in the 2nd inning that his man that he needed to help the Dodgers win the first championship since 1988? Roberts knew. He got the phone call, too. That makes sense? Your thoughts?
I'm not sure that Roberts got the phone call, Charlton. I know that the owners got the phone call.
Yeah.
And when Rogers got the information, I know he took him out of the game, at least in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
So the owners may not have been so anxious about getting him out of the lineup.
Really?
But you got to look at it from this perspective.
Yeah.
Even after they took him out of the game, Turner is the player rep for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
That's right.
So he was part of writing the COVID protocol for the major league players.
Yeah.
So he understood all the regulations that were in place and implemented, and he chose to forego that, Charlton,
Yeah.
based on selfishness. And the only thing that I can see that Major League Baseball does, I know he's a free agent coming up this season.
Yeah.
So who knows whether he'll be back with the Dodgers or anything. But I think all that management could do is impose a 30 to 35 game suspension on him at the start of whatever season is next for Major League Baseball.
Okay, I would say this is my opinion. The owners of the Dodgers knew they had a player that was going to possibly cost them a World Series if he couldn't play, because he's holding it down on third base, Big C. He's doing his thing on third base, and he's also a good hitter. If the owners knew, just like they just punished Houston, the Astros, for somebody having videotapes or whatever they were doing, video recording something nobody admitted it, but somebody got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Why would you punish Justin Turner when the guys who signed his paycheck, they knew before he knew, and they didn't turn him in? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to fine the organization. I mean, there has to be a hefty fine on the Dodgers also.
Yeah.
But my point about Turner, he's the player rep, Charlton.
Yeah.
He sit down with the rest of the player reps from 29 other major league teams.
Yeah.
And they put down a COVID-19 protocol if a player becomes infected. He was not at loss as far as the guidelines to follow.
Yeah.
He was one of those individuals who wrote up the guidelines. They helped write up the guidelines. And yet he forego those guidelines for his own selfish, acclaim. That's what he did. He put everybody else at risk. And now today, Charlton, all the Los Angeles Dodgers, all of the Tampa Rays are in quarantine at home.
Yeah.
They're all in 14-day quarantine because of that move of Justin Turner.
Yeah, Big C, and I agree. If you're going to punish everybody, punish the ownership and the player. But on the flip side, a lot of these guys are down there in L.A. that may happen to be Republican. I mean, that's my opinion. They may follow POTUS, and when they see POTUS, who goes around saying that COVID's over, even though the doctors are saying no, it's not, and they say this man, he and his wife have been tested positive for COVID-19 in the past, less than the last 2 weeks, Big C. And they're all flying around the country on Air Force One and going to these rallies, nobody wearing masks, and they see the commander-in-chief for the next 6 days, and maybe they're following that bad example. So how do you punish the ownership and a player for doing what the commander-in-chief for the next 6 days does? Big C, your thoughts?
The same way you punished the Houston Texans when they were accused of cheating, Charlton, the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
You fine the organization is what you do. And you give them a hefty fine. You take away draft picks.
Yeah.
And then you find the player who broke protocols, who set up part of the rules.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of what some other individual does in some other part of the country, you were in a bubble down in Houston, the biggest Texas, Austin, Texas, wherever they were.
Arlington, yeah.
The biggest thing is, how did you get COVID-19 when you're in a bubble?
Yeah.
Did you leave out of the bubble? Did you bring somebody into the bubble? And then when you were told that you tested positive and you had to leave the field, you told people, no, you're going to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
That baseball regulations don't include you.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, is that you think that you're bigger than the league.
Yeah, and sometimes they are, Big C, if that makes sense to you. Money can buy you power. Look at Donald Trump. You tell me people don't get away with things where they're white and got a lot of money?
But he's an employee. Donald Trump is the president. We're talking about an athlete who can be put on waivers, who can be cut. Think about this, Charlton. He is a free agent. There's no guarantee that he'll have a contract next year in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, but I'm still saying his owners knew it before he knew it. It's all fair and love and war. But I want to take your point serious. College football, Big C, it's because college players, other than the guys that get paid illegally, they're out there for nothing. And maybe they'll get a degree and hopefully a job in COVID-19. As teams deal with cancellations, the frustration is real and it's understandable. And it's possible to conduct, in my opinion, it's possible to conduct an improved season with the right health and safety guidelines that some guys for the Dodgers don't even follow. So maybe I'm just talking out of the side of my deck. But to mitigate the risk proposed that come in contact with COVID-19, people got to know how can they stay safe. That's why it's not safe to send kids back to college until they have it figured out. These protocols have been postponed or canceled 3 games of this week. I think it was 3 games, and it's 37 games overall. With that number guaranteed to grow in the coming weeks, in other words, the guidelines have worked. Put simply, Big C, the games are played when the protocols are met and canceled when they're not. But we just saw the example of the Dodgers, the ownership and the multi-millionaire player. Sometimes they're willing to put everybody at risk just to play a freaking game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's what they did, but college football is not doing that, Charlton. We saw what happened at the University of Wisconsin with Paul Chryst and several of his key players testing positive.
Yeah, they did it right.
First 3 quarterbacks, Charlton. So they canceled the game at the University of Wisconsin. So Nebraska and Wisconsin will skip a game this week, Charlton, hopefully being able to play next week on Wisconsin's behalf.
Yeah.
But this is the system that we're living in right now in athletics. Everybody set up the rules to play.
Yeah.
And you have to follow the rules or don't show up at all. And so college football does not have the financial leverage that professional athletes do, that they can be fined.
Yeah.
You get suspended in college and that's done. You're done for the season. But, you're going to see even more games being canceled as the season goes on. And that's just the landscape of college football.
Yeah, it's amazing how people wanted to beat up the commissioner of the Big Ten. And it worked. I guess when you threaten to beat somebody up, Big C, they'll turn around and let you play. And the doctors it's amazing how Dr. Birx has walked out of the White House coronavirus task force, and because they don't listen to science. And so she's out doing her own stomping to warn the country how to stay safe, Big C. A woman, a powerful white woman, and POTUS telling her to shut up. And she's on her own, at least trying to do the right thing. It's just amazing how some people don't trust doctors or science anymore. It's a crazy world out there sometimes. You got to vote. Big C, college football in the Mid-American Conference, think about this. They must play a minimum of 3 games to be eligible to win the league title, Commissioner John Steinberger said. And he said that today. The MAC starts its 6-game conference-only football season November the 4th, the day after the election. And the championship game is scheduled for December 18th at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, see, the MAC understands the possibility that they may not be able to play that 6-game schedule, that 3 games is more realistic.
Yeah.
And you think about it, that you're putting all these kids' health at risk for them to potentially play a 3-game schedule just to be eligible for the conference championship.
Yeah.
And, that's not even worth it realistically, but I guess it's a money grab and you take whatever dollars that you can.
Yeah, you take whatever call. You know, I know it's about money, Big C, and that's always, we did a study, or you and I did a show, what's going to win out, money or health? And I was foolish for saying that health is going to be more important, because they've shown me that money will all, Ecclesiastes 10:19, a feast is made for laughter, the Big Z burger, and wine maketh merry, the Budweiser Zero with zero alcohol. But money answers all things. Hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars is always more important to health in mainstream America. College football, group of 5 unbeaten teams. When you think about this, Big C, of the group of 5, the unbeatens, we have BYU, we have Cincinnati, Coastal Carolina, Liberty, and Marshall. Which of these teams, in your opinion, has the best opportunity to make it to a New Year's Day's bowl game, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'll start with the first team that you said when you talked about BYU. Smith, they have one of the most outstanding young quarterbacks in the country. The kid's completing about 80% of his passes. He'll remind a lot of people of Joe Burrow from last year with the completion ratio that he has, but I also think he has a much stronger arm than Joe Burrow and a little more mobility.
Yeah.
But Cincinnati under Luke Finkel is an outstanding team also. They're leading their conference. They knocked off SMU last week, which is their toughest opponent to date. That, the only hiccup they have left that could come on their schedule, I think, is the University of Memphis.
Yeah.
But I like those two teams. BYU, they got a lot of national recognition. They've won a national championship before, under Lavelle Edwards, and I think they have an opportunity to play again on New Year's Day.
When you think about BYU and Notre Dame, I know Notre Dame has never joined a conference in football because they make too much money. And those Catholics, don't get mad at me, those Catholic universities don't want to share money, if that makes sense. But they believe in equality for everybody, except for when it comes to splitting that money, the great Notre Dame, Big C. How have BYU and Notre Dame managed to stay independent in football? But I know BYU is I believe they're in the WAC conference in basketball, and then Notre Dame just joined the ACC for other sports outside of football, except for this year too, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it was all about economics. They had been independent for so long in football is that they did not have the desire to join conferences.
Yeah.
I mean, there's many schools around the country that are like that. Those just happen to be the two most notable.
Yeah, they are. And it'd be great if they had a year head-to-head competition, bringing in the Catholics versus the Mormons to have football and religion debated on the football field. If that makes sense to you, it's all fair love and war. I wish those programs would put together a home and home every year the way Notre Dame does it with USC. And they used to do it with Michigan and Army and Navy, etc. I want to jump to the world of the NHL, Big C. The Arizona, I feel bad saying the Coyotes because Donald Trump uses that term so many times to create xenophobia against people of color coming up from Mexico. But the Arizona Coyotes in the NHL, Big C, they're renouncing the rights to draft pick Mitchell Miller after his history of assaults and racism as a juvenile were spotlighted in a newspaper investigation. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this just shows how racism has been abundant in America.
Yeah.
When you think about people stumping for Donald Trump and all of what he has said about how to treat people of color in America, this young man took it to heart in high school and bullied a mentally disabled student that was African American, Charlton, beat him up on campus and everything. And so I respect the Coyotes down in Arizona, Charlton, for relinquishing his rights and, hopefully him the best in the future. But hopefully this will let him learn that you can lose a lot of money being racially insensitive to people.
Not necessarily. Look at Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills. Look at the good old, it didn't cost him at all. He had a lot of the same stuff. You had Bosa.
Did you remember what you just said? They relinquished his rights. That meant that they drafted him in the 4th round. They relinquished his rights. They're not going to pay. So he's lost that 4th round money of being an NHL draft pick.
Let me ask you this question.
And now the only option he has is to potentially go to college if someone gives him a scholarship.
Did you hear of Nick Bosa, drafted in the 1st round by the 49ers? They make him, I guess, their paragon of virtue on their team.
But are you hearing what you're saying, Charlton? He got drafted this year. And now they relinquish his rights. That means he has no money on the table. What happened with those other guys? They had gotten drafted. Those teams didn't relinquish their rights. That's what you're missing in the point of what you're saying. They relinquish his rights. That means he doesn't belong to anybody. He is just an individual in society right now.
But what I disagree with you, you're saying being racist will hurt you financially. that teams will lower your draft stock, and I'm saying it doesn't. That's why.
So I'm confused with what you're saying, because you just read to me that they relinquish his rights. That means we're not going to give you any money. That means that you don't have a job option right now. The only thing that you have left is that you can potentially go to college.
Yeah.
That means you're not making any money. So I'm losing what you're saying by that.
Well, I'm saying maybe if the NFL looks at it differently than the NHL, because a lot of guys are racist, and they like guys like that. They just have them say, hey, I'm sorry, I was young and I was drunk, and it's all fair and love and war. But this guy's 18-year-old defenseman committed to play at the University of North Dakota next season, was selected in the 4th round of the 2020 NHL Draft, 111th overall by the Coyotes. On October 26th, the Arizona Republic, they published an extensive expose of Miller's bullying of Isaiah Meyer. Carruthers, an African-American classmate, and he had developmental disabilities in Ohio. But I got to take you to this, too, because different leagues, depending on who you are, a lot of those guys are racist anyway. So they'll make you clean it up by saying, oh, I was drunk or I was dumb and ignorant. I don't know that. But Donald Trump also made fun of a person with disabilities. I remember it was on his, when he was running in 2016, and he was going, I don't know, and he was using his hands and trying to gargle his words because he was dealing with a man who had a disability. And the crowd laughed at it. And he still got the majority of white people to vote for him anyway. Big C, your thoughts?
My thoughts is that I commend the Arizona Coyotes for the move that they made. They said that you cannot represent us.
Yeah.
You cannot represent our organization. We will not give you one damn dime.
Yeah.
Go out and find whatever money you got to find wherever you got to find it, but we're not going to have you representing our organization. So I commend them. I can't speak for those other people.
Yeah.
I can only speak for the respect that I can give to the Arizona Coyotes, because they said there's no place in our organization or in society for the crap that you pull.
Isn't that funny? This is the same state they turned down a Martin Luther King holiday twice. They had to be threatened with losing the Super Bowl. I know that's the NFL, not the NHL, but it's the same state. I'm sure a lot of them eat at the same restaurants. Why would the Coyotes be? Maybe people are progressing. I hear that Donald Trump is also losing in the state of Arizona. You think we're having a sea change with the way that people think in Arizona, Big C? Your thoughts?
No, I don't, Charlton, because the people who run that organization are from Canada.
Yeah.
So that's how the Canadians think.
Yeah.
A much different country, Charlton. Front office management is run by Canadians with the Arizona Coyotes. And so that's the difference in mindset.
That's a very well statement, very good statement. They come from a different culture, and they didn't have the same type of racial animus in Canada that we found homegrown in the United States. But people just got to get out and make sure you vote. If you're not registered, then you probably won't be able to vote when you show up. You still got time to register. They're saying some places around the country, you don't have time to put your vote, your ballot in the mail. You got to drop it at the ballot box, Big C. But you got to get registered. Text the word VOTE to 26797. That's 26797. Tell all your friends to get registered. Don't be afraid. You got to make your voices heard, and you can't make it heard if you don't vote, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it is too late to mail in a ballot, but you can drop it off at an official ballot box.
Yeah.
Or you can drop it off at the clerk's office. You can drop off your ballot there, or you can take it to the polling station on voting day. You have up until tomorrow to drop it off at early voting. Otherwise, you have to wait until Tuesday, but you can drop it off any day.
Yeah.
At the clerk's office, at an official ballot drop box, Charlton. But it's too late to put it in the mail. If you put it in the mail, it's not going to count.
Yeah, so everybody, I don't know what to say. We got 6 days left. I know people plan for weddings. People plan for a lot of things. They plan for a birthday party or a college graduation. But some things you can only do every 4 years. That's vote in the primaries for the President of the United States. And then we have the down ballot so people can also go and vote and deal with their own local and their state elections too. I'm just proud that we're having... They're saying there's going to be, by election day, over 100 million Americans that have already cast their vote. It's so great to be a part of a country where we have the chance to exercise our democratic principles so that we don't become an autocratic country. And that's just my opinion. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm going to have a relaxing evening. Got a couple of college football games and a pro game going on tonight. I'm going to sit back and watch the second half. But I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers. They don't sit back and watch any half, Charlton. They make sure they do their due diligence. Our nurses, doctors, and first responders, thank you for all that you do every day.
Yep, that's very well said. Always find time for the things that make you happy in life and happy to be alive. You can be alive every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.